Hi everyone, welcome back to the Creator Shelf. Good to see you all here. So first and foremost, I just want to say that I hope you're all doing well. Some of us are still in lockdown, and I know that with the longer nights and the shorter days, it's sometimes been a challenge. But I think everybody's really holding up well given the circumstances. And I want to just say a big thank you to lots of friends, families, but also people from the tarot community and other spiritual communities who have been very helpful and supportive, I think, towards each other. And it's just really nice to be a part of a mix of people which are just very kind and patient, and you can just have a chat with someone about the craziness of the situation, and yet still just keep going. And so this week I kind of was thinking what do I film or what do I show? And I came across a question on a forum that I'm a part of, where somebody had said that she's experiencing a lot of she's actually a tarot reader, which I'm not personally myself, but as in I read, but I don't read professionally. And she had said that what do I buy in terms of decks for people who are encountering professional issues? And I kind of understood that because there's a lot of questions people right now have about their workspaces or their businesses or the assignments that they're facing, and it's really understandable that there's just this case of what do I do next, or how can I cope with this, and it's a really good question actually that she put forward. And that immediately kind of got me thinking, and there's loads of suggestions for it. I mean, there are very modern decks out there, but also very much more not old-fashioned, but much more, let's say, natural decks as well. And I kind of start to think, what would appeal to me? Because of course, I don't do this for a living or anything. I have a professional job in a corporate space actually. And what's interesting is that somebody might think, well, what kind of decks appeal to me? And my instinct, I think if you'd asked me about 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, would have been more kind of I don't know, an energy which was more towards Ciro Marchetti or steampunk, or something which was very kind of mechanical. Sometimes I think of that, and I think those decks are fantastic. But I found myself in more recent times thinking that at this point in my life and where I'm at, once I'm out of a workspace setting, an office space setting especially, I don't want anything that puts me back in that space straight away. For me, it's not that helpful. Something that is not so kind of modern in that sense. And the last few weeks, I just want to talk about decks that I've been using, which help me to walk away from that workplace, but crucially when I'm facing pressure at work, or kind of a lot of paperwork and that kind of thing, the messages from those decks and from those cards have really been very helpful and powerful. So the first deck that I want to talk about, and I decided to switch it up and just use a few different decks that I think might be helpful, is a very common, these are all mass market by the way, so very affordable, very accessible via Amazon or Book Depository. The first deck I'm going to mention is Colette Baron Reid's The Good Tarot. Now, this is a Hay House publication. I think it came out about 4 years ago or something like that. And I know that there's been a lot of discussion about it's making tarot kind of too soft and too nice and that kind of thing, because what Colette had done, Colette Baron Reid had done, the author, and I need to mention the artist because I think that's really important actually. Sorry, just let me check. Cover design, Trisha, Bride and Hotel, cover illustrations. Yeah, it's I'm going to butcher this name. Jenna Della Grottaglia. That is the artist, and I want to mention her name because she's very well known as well. And I know it's kind of a more slightly softer version of the tarot. I think some of the harshness has been removed, but I still think it has merit, and comes with its own little booklet which Colette Baron Reid has authored. Very helpful. Each card is just a paragraph. It's very short. So she's made it kind of very simple, accessible to people. And I've heard from friends who are have done professional readings that actually this is a pack that a lot of people who are new to tarot or just not familiar and they want a reading, they feel comfortable with it. So I think that's really important to remember. So the reason why I picked this deck is because the images are just very, very soft. I find them soft and soothing, and I find that is really helpful in terms of allowing people to just absorb the image and then just to be able to read from a very short paragraph. So, you know, and it's very modern in many ways, but at the same time, it's got a very earthy energy. She's tried to, you know, put images in which allow people to connect with certain ancestors or cultures. Some of it's a bit more fantasy-like, and I just think that she has done a very good job of this. I appreciate it. And, you know, these are the backs of the cards, so it's a very good quality cardstock. But I think she's done a very good job. And in terms of, you know, I'm talking about decks which somebody might want to use with a person who is not just not very familiar with tarot, but they might also have some kind of a reservation about tarot and this kind of area, and they might not feel very comfortable with some more detailed decks. That's what I'm going to say. I don't like the word dark decks or something like that, or shadow and all these kind of words, because I think they come with connotations which it's a bit like stereotyping a whole deck, and it's like, no, that's not actually what they're doing. So, you know, for me, I'm just going to use the word that, you know, that this is a deck which is perhaps more accessible to those that would like a reading, but they don't want to be they don't want something that you know, leaves them feeling a bit too vulnerable or attacked or something. And then you know, that person, I always remember what situation are they going to go into next after they've had the reading. And if that somebody's facing very difficult career choices right now, especially with our situation that we're in, or work or financial issues, you know, it's just to remember the state of mind that person's in, and perhaps to offer images that are soothing. So I hope that's a good starter, but I wanted to draw this up because it's not a deck personally that I think, I don't personally love it that much, to be quite honest with you. However, I respect the deck for the way it's been made, and I respect the fact that a lot of people do like it, and I've used it with a few friends and they really like it. And for me, as someone who's reading for friends and people close to me, it's just kind of like, oh, okay, well, yeah. And it matters to me that the person that I'm reading to also enjoys the images. It's, you know, ultimately it's their reading actually, and I'm just a channel for it. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that, you know, that it might not be one that I always love, although that's a really nice card. I love it. I mean, I think the artistry is really good, definitely. I'm someone that likes a lot of detail in my cards. I think that's the issue, and I don't find there's enough detail in these. But at the same time, I mean, that's a stunning card there that you've got right there. That's the Five of Fire, the Five of Wands. So she's made it even simple. She's just given it the actual elemental energy, Five of Wands. It's meant to be traditionally an energy about internal conflict and fighting within and opposing forces within. And she softened it to kind of like, you know, these kind of lights. And yet, you know, the mind is kind of like really, there's a lot going on in there and within this person. So yeah, it's interesting how, you know, the author and the illustrator have worked together to produce images which I would not have realized. I mean, this is the Hermit, which is, you know, a closed door. I actually think the image and the artistry is stunning. What I don't like is the fact that the number 9 has been placed right on the center. It's just kind of like jarring for me personally a little bit. But the actual image is fantastic. It's a door, it's closed, there are keys obviously there. So it's about being within, closing ourselves off, but sometimes we need that for reflection. That's always the message of the Hermit. But I like the way she's done it. So yeah, I just think that this is a really great deck, and if you're working or helping those or reading for those who are struggling currently with work or business issues, perhaps this is one for them. Also for others as well, struggling, full stop. But also bearing in mind that the reader might not always be comfortable with tarot cards, or they're trying it for the first time. Okay, so that is The Good Tarot by Colette Baron Reed and Jenna Della Cortaglia. So that's that one. The deck that I'm going to get to next is so now we're going into a different we're going into two decks which are by the same author basically, and the same artist, but these are decks that I've been really using, and this is why I'm going to go into it. This is the Druid Craft Tarot deck. Now this is a very popular deck. I think it's from 2015. Very famous. There's a much larger copy available which comes with a really good guidebook. I don't have that. I wish I had that one, but I've got this one. It comes with its own little guidebook here, and just to make it clear, the authors are Philip and Stephanie Carr-Gomm, and illustrated by Will Worthington, and he's a very famous illustrator, as you all know. And I really like these decks. Now these are the images, so you can see here very, I mean yeah, I think it's a very popular deck, so some of you will be very well aware of it, but the images are just fantastic. It's very, for me, very much all the energies. There's earth, there's water, there's fire, and there's air, as in not just in terms of the actual suits at the bottom, but I mean in terms of the imagery. Whenever I see it, I mean, this is the Princess of Swords, which is an air, traditionally it's of course swords, which is an air energy, but yet, you know, you see so much of that earthiness below her feet. You see the sun coming out from the sky. One sees kind of like, you know, the strength of the woman holding the sword. And there's this flow, this beautiful flow, which reminds me a bit of water. So I just think that the artist has done such a fantastic job of drawing upon nature. That's the words I want to use. This is the Queen of Pentacles, representing, of course, the queen of that material side of us, abundance and earth and the materialized part of our world. And you know, she's got the little hair there, but I just think it's been done so well. And here she is, she's got a pentacle weaved onto the drum that she's about to beat. I think that's a drum she's beating, yeah. So you know, and that throne, I just think, and this is the lovers, this is not the lovers card, this is 15, this is the devil. Very well done again. And you know, 10 of swords, that kind of like overkill. But I just think she's a 9 of swords. I think, Will Worthington has done a fantastic job with the art. And the reason why I think this is a very good deck, personally, I think, for somebody that's looking for a reading, now you're gonna say, why would you pick this when it's to do with workplaces and maybe with business and jobs and stuff like that? And the reason why I say it is because it really, for me now, does take a person out of the office space. And I believe that ultimately any kind of service that a person does in the world, and kind of like drawing upon that purpose, sense of purpose, but the service they do in the world, there is a creativity to it. And I think sometimes people find that there's this kind of like dialogue that, oh, office spaces, they're not really creative. They are creative. I think they are very, very creative. And I think that what these images do is, for me, they can help a person to be able to step out of that kind of like box and see their purpose in life and their service as much more holistic and tied to the land and nature and the world that we live in and the elements. And that's why I really like this deck. The other reason why I like it, and I just want to mention this, is that the characters and the messages are very strong and powerful in that sense. So every time you see someone like the Nine of Pentacles is traditionally, you know, a woman who's come into her own, or a person, I should say, that has come into her own. She's holding that canary. In this one, it's not canary. It's actually a bird of prey, but she holds, you know, the bird in her hand because it's a symbol of being able to contain that energy and be with nature. And she's come into the fruit of her labor, kind of thing. That's what this message is about. And I just really like the fact that it's powerful images, it's powerful people on there. 10 of Wands and the bird, and you can see though that he's still quite a strong person holding those wands. And this is the Hermit, but next to the Hermit they've placed this I was gonna say fox, it's a wolf, But you know, it's just for me so good in the way that they've just done it. The High Priest again, just the way he's positioned and poised, and I just really like the energy of this deck because there's a lot of power in there, and I think that it's important to have decks that have this kind of power and are earthy and natural, and yet can be used with people that are seeking a sense of understanding about their own career at this point, or their business. So that's another deck that I recommend. And finally, I just want to quickly go on to it because I really love this deck, and it's going to accompany the Druidcraft, which is the Druid Animal Oracle deck. And again, this is by Philip and Stephanie Carr-Gom, illustrated by Will Worthington. I should also mention they're both published by, I just want to make sure, Edison Books Limited for this one, and I want to make sure for the other one is also Edison Books Limited, so those are the publishers. Now, the reason why I want to mention this deck, and Kelly from The Truth in Story has I think she also said this herself, but it didn't strike me until I used this Oracle deck this week, is that animal Oracle decks are really good decks in a way for, I think, helping people, as I understand, helping people to feel comforted, or, you know, they're not alone. And I have to say that, like, dealing with currently situations around work where, you know, for some of us, we're actually going through a whole work day where we're not going to leave our home at all, and we'll be in front of a screen for about 9 hours. And you can imagine how that becomes. And of course, once one can leave the house, it's already dark again. So it's a really, it's a situation which I think it's really good to be able to tap into another energy. And the reason why I love this deck, now look at that. That's just like a work of art. Each one of these is just a work of art for me. And the reason why I like this deck so much, and it didn't occur to me until I kind of recalled what Kelly from The Truth and Story had said, was that animal energy feels so comforting to be accompanied by when one goes back into a workspace or a business. It's just it's like a companion, basically. And, you know, we call them familiars, but it's just wonderful to have this energy riding with me through the day, kind of thing. And so helpful, so spot on. It reads so well. The guidebook is fantastic. You can read reversals of this as well. These are the back of the cards, very simple. But the actual imagery of each card is just so good. And I think that, you know, to turn to one of these cards at the end of the day and pick up what it's saying is just really helpful, I think, for many people, for myself definitely. And so yeah, I wanted to just recommend this. So hopefully this is not too long. I don't know if this is helpful to some people. I think I'm going to try and do some more book reviews the next week, because I've had a few people say, oh yeah, but we also want some books as well. So it's like, okay, so let me switch back a bit. My current work situation is that I just don't have the capacity to be able to read a lot, which I think some other people have alluded to as well, where we're just so much coming into influx of information and reading in the workspace right now for some of us that as soon as I switch off, I just can't take in anymore. So that's why for me right now, the tarot and the oracle decks are just so good. But yeah, I will be able to switch back a little bit, just so bear with me. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. Have another wonderful week. We are a few weeks closer to Christmas now, and or Yule, or Hanukkah, or whatever a season that you're celebrating perhaps. And yeah, and I hope these videos help in the run up to what might be not always the norm, but I think we're still doing pretty good. Okay, take care. See you soon. Bye.